Welcome to the first episode of AU Nation. I'm your host, Evan Blank, here to bring you the latest opinions from your very own student media. Joining me today first is Lindsey McAlister from EETV. She's a sports reporter covering varying sporting events for EETV. Lindsey, how are you today?
I'm doing good, Evan. How are you?
How's the knee?
It's great. It's great. Now I've got my ring. I'm a SEC champion, so I'm feeling good.
There you go. Lindsey, for those of you who don't know, was the photographer that Ricardo Lewis took out on the sidelines at the Louisville game. All right, next up for us is Noah Gardner. He is a WEGL sports analyst that hosts a show called GH Sports and also covers sporting events for WEGL. Noah, how are you today?
I'm doing really good, Evan. How are you doing?
I'm all right.
It's great.
I'm glad someone asked me. Next up, and last but certainly not least, is the great Evan McCullers. He is an assistant sports editor for the Auburn Plainsman. You can read all his stories online at theplainsman.com. Evan, welcome.
Thanks. Glad to be back, Evan.
I'm glad to have you here.
Another good episode on the way.
Evan and I had some good times in the press box this weekend. All right, so all of you, thanks for joining me today. Now we're on to our first topic. So, topic number one covers Auburn soccer. Are the Auburn women's soccer team's chances, what are they here in the SEC tournament tonight against fifth-seeded South Carolina and for the rest of the tournament going forward?
Now I'll just go ahead and start off and say, Evan, I did ask you how you were, so I'm a little bit offended about that snarky comment right there. But I think we have a good chance tonight to win. I think we're going to pull it off. What do y'all think?
I definitely agree with you, but I don't think that we're going to win the whole tournament. I think that we've got a great shot to make a deep run. Tonight, we for sure get the W, but because of our lack of ability to hold possession in the midfield, we're definitely going to run into some issues later on when we get deep into the tournament.
Yeah, we're very timid, so far this season I've noticed, and it's not Karen Hoppa's team. It doesn't seem like we've kind of slumped down a little bit. So
I think tonight there's a decent chance of victory. If you'll recall, earlier in the season, Auburn went to South Carolina, the opponent tonight, and lost 2-0 in Columbia. I think they're approaching it as kind of a revenge game for that loss, and I think they might be able to go out and get a win tonight. But you look at, like you said, further in the tournament, the next potential matchup would be the number 1 seed, Florida. And I would not like Auburn's chances in that game. Florida, one of the best teams in the country, and I don't think they would be able to get past the Gators even if they do win tonight.
It's definitely a bad draw.
Yep.
yeah.
All right. Auburn softball to Auburn softball, I should say, up right now. Auburn softball finished up fall ball, defeating their opponents with a combined scoring of 102-3. What are your biggest takeaways from the team going into spring ball?
Well, the pitching was absolutely phenomenal. Now, you have to look at the level of competition that we were playing against. But overall, I have to say that it was a pretty complete performance in every game, with the exception of fielding. There seems to be a lot of question marks, especially with the amount of injuries that were beginning to pile up, and with the amount of errors that they had in those fall ball games.
Yeah, I agree. I think, like you said, you've got to look at the competition, and most of it is very inferior to just the pure talent that Auburn has on its team. But with that said, Evan asked about the biggest takeaway. I think the biggest takeaway just has to be the injuries. Like you said, both of the shortstops get hurt in fall ball, and we don't know yet how that's going to affect them in the spring, if those are going to carry over. But definitely after making their first trip to the Women's College World Series this past spring, there's a lot of expectations going into this year. I just don't know how much you can read into the performances in fall ball because of the competition.
I think as long as Casey Ramzier, gets involved early and we're just aggressive as anything, you always have to be aggressive. But I feel like we maybe get another one. Y'all think? No chances?
I definitely believe that we have a great chance to return to Oklahoma City. But the team as a whole still has a long way to go. They need to heal up, and they have a good couple months before the season begins. And then their bats need to be on fire like they were last year.
You got a lot of pieces coming back, though. I mean, you lose 2 starting outfielders who were both seniors, but there were only 3 seniors on that team last year. So you get most people coming back this season, but you look at the injuries, And I think a lot of the success is going to depend on that if they can get healthy before spring ball begins, and especially before you get into SEC play in the spring.
All righty. Thanks to our analysts for that. From Auburn sports to the national scene, that's next, right here on AU Nation on Eagle Eye TV, Channel 6.
Boys will be boys.
Well, she was drunk.
Well, he was drunk.
She was asking for it. He warned her.
Not my problem.
Why doesn't she just leave? But he's such a nice guy.
He said he was sorry.
We don't talk about that.
It's just the way people are.
We're never going to fix it.
No more excuses.
No more silence.
No more violence.
It's time to end domestic violence and sexual assault once and for all.
Welcome back to AU Nation. I am your host, Evan Blank, here with Lindsey McAlister from Eagle Eye TV, Noah from WEGL Radio, and Evan McCullers from the Plainsman. We talked Auburn sports last segment, guys. We dive into the national scene now. Major League Baseball up first. The Royals have defeated the Mets 4-1 to win the World Series. What impressed you the most about the Royals' run through the playoffs?
Well, Evan, last year the Royals lost, and you could just tell they had this vengeance this whole time to get back in, and now that they've won, that's a pretty big deal. I think that was pretty impressive that they've just showed, stamina to get that big W. So
It had been 30 years since the Royals had won a World Series. They were not going to mess up this time. Pitching was absolutely phenomenal, and just for the fact that they took the Mets in 5 games, just absolutely goes a long ways to show that this was a complete team.
Yeah, I agree. I think the most impressive thing to me was just their resiliency throughout the playoffs. 6 games in the playoffs, they trailed by multiple runs at one point in the game and came back to win all of those games. I mean, just an unprecedented series of comebacks. And like you said, what that meant for the city of Kansas City, it's been so long, and years ago the Royals weren't just not winning the World Series, they were bad. I mean, they were one of the worst teams in the MLB. The city and the fan base stuck by them. They actually had the parade this morning, and hundreds of thousands of people lined the streets of Kansas City. And like you said, that just meant so much for the city, and it's good to see, just as a fan of baseball, for that city to finally get paid off for all of its efforts.
Most definitely.
Great scene in Kansas City, like you said, Evan. It's so great to see a city like that, a small market team, getting a championship like that. Love baseball. I can't wait till next year. All right, we move on to college football. After the rankings have now been released from the College Football Playoff Committee, out of the Power 5 conferences, which looks like their conference champion will be left out of the college football playoffs?
Well, I have to say, a lot of people want to pick the SEC for this, and that's just not going to happen. The Pac-12 are going to be the conference who gets left out. No undefeateds left. The teams are a good couple of rankings outside of the top 5, Stanford being the closest one. There's just absolutely little hope in my eyes for them to go all the way, especially with so many ranked matchups remaining.
yeah, I agree with you on that. That's why I had the Pac-12 with the undefeated teams. Like, I definitely. Well, I'm sorry. I am so, y'all, this is so funny. Y'all missed it. Evan Blank just had a fly land on his nose. Did y'all see that?
I did.
But yes, Pac-12, my bad. That just threw me off so bad. I had to finish honestly right there. Sorry. But yeah, Pac-12, I agree.
I think right now it's the SEC, and that could definitely change because LSU's still undefeated and they control their own destiny, obviously, from here on out. If they win out, they're in, and there's no. But you also have to look at right now, Ole Miss controls their own destiny, and they've still got LSU on the schedule. Ole Miss has 2 losses. If they were to upset LSU and go to the SEC championship game, I don't think the SEC gets in because Ole Miss is definitely not getting in, and then that would mean that every SEC team has a loss. So I think Ole Miss is a very dangerous team for the SEC as a conference because I think if they get to the championship game, the SEC is going to be the conference left out. Now, I do expect LSU to beat them and LSU to go to the conference championship game. So, you know, that could obviously change. We're still fairly early in the process with the first playoff poll just being released tonight. But I think as we stand here today, the SEC would be left out.
No, don't get angry at me for saying this, but You didn't mention Alabama there. Something
right.
that we definitely have to look at, especially if they beat LSU this weekend. To go at it, there's Bama bias. It's obvious. It's been there for the past 5-6 years now, maybe since the beginning of time. Who knows? But overall, Big 12 is going to get a loss more than likely because all those ranked teams still have to play each other.
Right.
And then the Big 10 more than likely could get all of them to lose because Michigan could very well completely, absolutely throw a monkey wrench into that division where Ohio State and Michigan State are reigning supreme. And with that being said, Alabama could very well find their way into it if they make it and run the table. And right now it looks like they could.
Yeah, I think there's 3 SEC teams, 2, LSU and Alabama, that control their own destiny to the playoff. And then Ole Miss is kind of that wild card. Like you said, Michigan in the Big Ten, Ole Miss could really mess things up if they were to win out and make it to the championship game.
Very true.
How do y'all feel about Clemson?
They're a lock. Nobody in the ACC is really going to be able to compete with them right now unless they pull a Clemson.
I agree. I think them in the ACC, and then I think the winner of Michigan State and Ohio State up in the Big Ten is fairly likely to run the table. Like you said, Ohio State's still got Michigan in that rivalry game at the end of the year. But I think there's a good chance if they beat Michigan State, then they will run the table and end up in the playoff.
Yeah, I was watching that Stanford-Washington State game last week. I thought Washington State was going to win. I had a tweet all prepared about how all hope was lost for the Pac-12, but Stanford stays alive again. All right, we move to some people's favorite topic. We got some game picks. We got 3 games for you this week. So we start out in the ACC big matchup between number 17 Florida State at number 3 Clemson. Evan, lead us off.
Yeah, Clemson was a playoff pick of mine in the preseason. I still love this Clemson team. I think with Deshaun Watson at quarterback, the offense is really clicking on all cylinders right now. And then you've got that game in Death Valley at Clemson. I think they get the W.
I agree with you. As much as Clemson is playing great, though, part of me wants to pick Florida State in this game just because it's so like Clemson to pull a Clemson, as I said earlier.
You think they're going to pull a Clemson?
It's possible, not in this game. I just think that this could be the year. But also, I'm remembering seasons ago when they played West Virginia in that bowl game and they lost of a tune 70 to 30 something. So it's very possible that this could be their day.
Yeah, I'm going Clemson too. I really like them, and I feel like they're so similar to Auburn too. So I'll usually pull for them. I just don't like Florida State at all. So.
All right. Game number 2 for us here is number 5, TCU, heads to Stillwater to take on number 12, Oklahoma State. Evan, once again, lead us off.
Yeah, I'm going to go with TCU here. Probably their toughest test so far this year. Like you said, going to Stillwater. But I think Trevon Boykin, that offense is just insane with him leading the way, and I think the Horned Frogs get the win.
Well, it's in Boone Pickens Stadium, and I got to go with Cowboys. They're going to deal the upset to the Horned Frogs this weekend. Mainly because Cowboys just, from what I've watched from them this year, whether they're playing defense to win games or just like last weekend, they're scoring 70 points to win games. It doesn't matter. They're winning games, and I think they're legitimate, and they make it for real this weekend.
I'm going TCU. So, Evan, we're on the same page.
Just agreeing on all.
Oh, yeah.
Lone Island.
I don't know about this next one, though. We'll see.
And we move on to that final game, Lindsey. Big matchup in Tuscaloosa as the undefeated number 4 LSU Tigers take on the 7th-ranked Crimson Tide. Evan, lead us off on this final game.
I'm going to go with Alabama. It's in Tuscaloosa. Alabama hasn't lost against LSU in 4 years since that first meeting in 2011. And I think this is probably the best defense Alabama has since that 2011 team. And I think they match up really well with LSU, where it's kind of an in-the-trenches game. And if Alabama can kind of gum things up in the middle, maybe slow down Leonard Fournette, I don't think he's possible to stop him. But slow him down, contain him, which I think they'll be able to do. I think the Crimson Tide get a big win.
You know, I picked against Alabama every chance I could get on my radio show, and they have proved me wrong consistently, except for the Ole Miss game. But Alabama's a much different team than they were a couple weeks ago. If you had asked me this question a couple weeks ago, I was telling you LSU's going to pull out the W. Not this weekend. Alabama's just too good.
LSU, definitely. I always pick with my heart and not my head. And so far, I mean, I've done pretty well. You can look. I can show you stats after that. I mean, I've done pretty well this season. So I'm definitely going LSU. I'll be pulling for those Tigers this weekend.
All right, there are your game picks and your look at the national sports scene. Coming up next, we're going to play a fun game. Stick right with us, right here on Eagle Eye TV, Channel 6. It's AU Nation.
Families come in all sizes and shapes. Sometimes your friends are your family by choice, or sometimes you're just stuck with Uncle Charles. But what we know is that you want to protect the people that are close to you. But the flu can unravel everything. Your flu vaccine protects you and your family. No matter what draws your family together, protect yourself, protect your family. Everyone needs a flu vaccine.
Welcome back to AU Nation. I'm your host, Evan Blank. We're going to have a little fun now as we play a little game called Fill in the Blank, where our producer, Jared Dillard, makes a joke out of my last name. We have 4 questions this week, and I want to see how you will fill in the blank. Ready, guys? Question 1, NCAA football. The one word I would use to describe the Duke-Miami ending is blank.
Ball still alive. It's got to be a backwards lateral. Get behind it. Still alive.
Duke doing a nice job staying spacing all over. Oh, he got a block.
Blockers. They got blockers. They've got a lane. 40-yard line. No black shirts between the goal line. Can you believe what you just saw?
Lindsey, start us off.
Messy. I mean, that was close-ish to kick 6. I don't know if you caught that game or not, but I feel like that was a lot more clean than that. So I feel like, that quick just run back, don't throw it all around. That was a hot mess.
Abominable. 3 missed block in the backs. 12 men were on the field before the end of the play.
Messy, I'm telling you.
And poor delivery on the call.
Yeah, I'm going to go with fraudulent because I don't think, technically it goes down as a win for Miami, but is it a real win? Because like you said, the officiating at the end of that game was so bad that the referees got suspended after the game. The conference
still have their
suspended
jobs?
them. Yeah, exactly. Not fired, incredibly, but
Yeah.
just a crazy ending, several missed calls on the play, but like I said, fraudulent.
Hot mess. That's 2 words, so I had to make it messy.
There you go. All right, question number 2. It's a double whammy, double the words, double the fun. In the NBA, most impressive team and the most disappointing team in the National Basketball Association so far is blank and blank. Lindsey, start us off.
Most impressive team, Curry, Steph Curry. Love that man, love his family. I have a major girl crush on his wife. I guess just a regular crush on him. Like, it wouldn't be a man crush because I'm not a man. But I love him. Definitely a huge Warriors fan just because of them. Bandwagoner, that's fine. Most disappointing team, I'm going to have to go with the Grizzlies. I'm from Memphis. And I just wish that we would have pulled it out last night, even though I love Steph Curry. I feel like we need to amp it up. So, the most disappointing team, Memphis.
The Thunder are by far, right now, in my opinion, the most impressive team in the NBA. Nobody expected this out of them, and I really think that they're a legitimate NBA title contender. It's still early, obviously only 4 games in the season, but I think they're the Warriors' most legitimate threat and the most disappointing team, the Bucks. Just by far so many expectations, and they are not living up to them.
Yeah, you get Kevin Durant back off of injury. He and Westbrook have been such a dynamic duo so far, even more so than in years past. But I'm going to agree and go with Golden State. You look at them, they're 4-0 right now, and their average margin of victory is over 25 points. That's nearly double the next best margin of victory in the NBA. They're just playing incredible ball right now. And for most disappointing, I'm going to go with the Houston Rockets. They're kind of on the other end of the spectrum, and their average margin of victory is -14. So they're 1-3, just got their first win last night. But with all the talent they've got on that team, I would expect a lot better from them.
All right, Question number 3, we turn to the NFL. Greg Hardy and the Cowboys' relationship will be blank by the end of the season. Lindsey.
Over. He's not a team player. Gone.
Originally, I was going to say non-existent. I think it's going to be extremely damaged, though. I think the Cowboys are too clingy to let him go, but there's definitely a lack of camaraderie there between him and his football club.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to go with ongoing, and I think that's unfortunate. Like you said, the Cowboys do tend to kind of be all in on him at this point. It's unfortunate because obviously he's been involved in the domestic violence issues and other legal troubles, but the Cowboys chose to pick him up anyway, and I think so far it's backfired, but I think they're in too deep right now, so I think it's definitely going to be ongoing by the end of this season.
All right, last question. We stick with the NFL. Ken Wisenhunt was fired yesterday morning. Blank needs to get rid of their coach ASAP. Lindsey.
I'm saying the Lions. They've got a bye week coming up. It's a good time to let him go. I feel so mean. Gone, let him go, but that's how I'm going with the Lions.
The Chargers. I mean, they just 2-6. There should be for such a storied franchise. There should be more expectations than what they're doing right now.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Lindsey and go with the Lions also. I've never understood the NFL team's intense pursuit of coaches who have been fired by other teams. But Jim Caldwell, fired by the Colts a few years ago, the Lions raced to pick him up, and they've got all that talent on that team, and they're 1-7 so far. It's time to pull the plug.
Bye-bye.
Noah, as a lifelong fan of the San Diego Chargers, I can assure you that no one has ever referred to them as a storied franchise. I don't know what you're talking about. Perennial disappointments, more like it. But that was fill in the blank. Thank you to our analysts for their great vocabulary. Coming up next, it's our burning question. We talk about college football. That's next on AU Nation, Eagle Eye TV, Channel 6.
From the moment we met, I knew we belonged together. I could tell right from the start that I was melting your heart, purring while you pet me, winding around your feet, and getting to just chill out with you. It felt perfect. But I don't know what just happened. Why am I in a cage, and who are these other sad animals? Where am I? They say I might get a new home. How can I get a new home when our bond was so special? What did I do wrong? How can you have given me up?
Welcome back to AU Nation here on Eagle Eye TV, Channel 6. This is the last part of the show as we talk about one big topic. The topic is known as our burning question. So here it is. College football this year has been a wild ride with many schools from outside the Power 5 conferences looking to have a spot in the playoffs. Some people are starting to advocate expanding the playoffs to 8 teams. Do you think it's a good idea to extend the college football playoffs from 4 teams to 8? And if so, what format and who gets in?
I think that we should keep it, or they should keep it 4 teams, because last year was the first year with 4 teams, and we don't know enough yet. You know, I think we need to give it a couple of years. The sample size was too small at first. So I think a couple of years, 4 teams, and then kind of fill out with what teams are going to go in.
Wasn't the purpose of this playoff to eliminate people from getting left out or from alienating colleges? And TCU got alienated last year. I think that we should not expand it to 8, as much as that would be very fun to watch and all the money that it would bring in. But I think 6 is a more realistic outcome of this.
Yeah, I actually like 8. I think, as you said, the purpose of this is to try to allow all teams that have a chance to compete for the playoff to win the national championship. I think 8 does that. I think you get 5 teams, all of the Power 5 champions a spot, and then maybe designate 1 spot for the best group of 5 teams from the smaller conferences, and then maybe have 2 wild card spots where the best 2 teams, whether they're Power 5 or Group of 5, that didn't make it as a conference champion, can get in and still have an opportunity to win it. The only problem with the 8 teams is I think with you having so many games at the end of the year, you would have to eliminate at least 1 non-conference game earlier in the year, and the big schools are not going to like giving up those easy wins in the regular season, and the small schools, your Division II schools and schools of that nature, are not going to like giving up those big paychecks that they get to come to the big schools and lose badly. So, that kind of creates a conflict. But like you said, these playoff games are going to make a lot of money too, so you kind of have to balance that.
Well, before I go into my format, just want to pose a question. Do you really think the team who is the 8 or the 7 seed can compete with the 1s and 2s every year? I know there may be a couple years that might work out, but
yeah, not necessarily every year. But I think most years you've got a situation where and I would argue that this year is one where there's no real dominant team. At least we haven't seen it yet. And I think on a given day, maybe a 5 through 8 seed could compete with somebody in the top.
Well, obviously I'd like to see 6, mainly because you could have auto bids if you want. But I think let's let it be a free-for-all. But let's let the little guy get in. Let's let somebody outside the Power 5 who maybe runs the table. We've got 2 teams this year in Toledo and Memphis who have wins over SEC opponents. Not bad SEC opponents either.
Right.
So I would like, if you want to put auto bids in there, go ahead. If you don't, let's at least keep it fair and let's not leave anybody out, and let's bring everybody in.
I agree.
Yeah, Noah, I do really like your way. It's sort of unorthodox. Okay.
All right. Now you can say your point, and then we'll close out the show.
Great.
Because we're editing.
Can I go,
Anytime
Master?
So hungry.
All right. Ready? Yeah, no, I really like your point. It's, the 6 teams, it's sort of unorthodox. It sort of gives you a way, your 5 conferences they're in, your last spot, you can do either, a wild card Power 5 team or, the best group of 5 team. It's interesting and different. I do like, however, Lindsey's point, we don't have a large enough sample size right now, so, how can we go forward without really getting an idea of what we're looking at? And Evan, 8 teams. We like football, and that'll give it to us for sure.
More football.
More football. That's right. That's what we all like to see. All right. Well, thanks to our analysts. You guys were all great today. We'd love to have you back anytime. Great job. All right. So that's it for AU Nation today. Make sure to tune in next Wednesday at 4 p.m. on EagleEyeTV.com. I'm your host, Evan Blank. Until next time, Auburn, Houston, we have a problem, and it's the Texans. See you next week.